Okay, so I had some issues getting this one done. It was supposed to go up yesterday, super sorry, but here we are, it's Friday. Let me make sure that we see this, okay? Your weekly reminders. Your discussion question is still open. It's available until Sunday at 11:59, and then it will close, okay? So don't forget to log on and do that if you haven't. Your individual reading project that I gave you in January, yes, still do. Next Friday, on my birthday, that's my gift. Send me your projects, okay? Some of you have already sent some TikTok videos of you cooking, some emails of your rewrites. I've got one picture of a piece of artwork, so keep it coming and I'll get those grades in for you. And then Zoom calls. We're changing it up a little, so we're going to start Zooming on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I will offer you 2 different times. Just pick the one you want to go to on Tuesday and then the one you want to go to on Thursday. You don't have to go to both. Okay, for those of you that I Zoomed with yesterday, it was so good to see your smiling faces. I miss you guys terribly. I'm sick of looking at these 4 walls of my house. I'd like to be in the classroom with you. Yet, here we are in my living room classroom. Okay, so here we go. Greek week. So what did we learn from part 1 of Greek week? Greek influences can still be seen today in architecture, academics, names that we give our children, and then brands that we purchase. Greek mythology, anything from the past that there isn't quite proof of and deals with gods, goddesses, and stories about the gods, usually from BC or early AD. All right, Greek mythology is probably the one we are the most familiar with, although there are 4 different mythology aspects: Greek, Roman, Egyptian, and Norse. Greek mythology gods and goddesses, as we discussed a little, are referenced more in pop culture, stories, and artwork. Okay, so we went over that last time. Remember the whole Amazon and Pandora, those kind of things. All right, so here's a layout of the Greek mythology family tree. I don't expect you to be able to read that right now. I'm going to load the entire PowerPoint onto Canvas for you to look at later, okay? So this is everybody, but we're going to kind of focus just for a few minutes on the ones we're most familiar with. Okay, so these are the ones that we're probably the most familiar with. We're going to start with Zeus, okay? Zeus is the Olympian god of the sky and the thunder, and he is the king of all the other gods and men, and consequently the chief figure in Greek mythology. So for what we know, it kind of goes Zeus and then down from there. Hades is the ancient Greek god of the underworld, okay? Poseidon is the violent and ill-tempered god of the sea. So he's the reason that boats rock, according to Greek mythology. Apollo is the Olympian god of the sun, light, music, poetry, healing, plagues, prophecy, knowledge, order of beauty, archery, and agriculture. Apollo's got it going on. There's a lot in that one person. Athena is the Olympian goddess of wisdom and war. And then finally, Ares is the Olympian god of war. Okay, so there's a lot more involved in this, but these are probably the ones you've kind of heard in school, in readings, and movies. So those are just kind of the ones we looked at. All right, so Greek mythology has a whole lot of family issues going on. Incest, murder, sibling rivalry, cannibalism, wars, marriage. There's a lot going on, like Zeus's dad swallowing all of his siblings, and then Zeus doing the same thing and swallowing his children so they could remain the greatest, and then marrying his mom and then his sister, and it is a hot mess up in the family of the Olympians. All right, so Greek theater. I just kind of put some pictures up there. This is kind of what it would have looked like, okay? Some characteristics of Greek theater. Usually performed for special occasions like festivals. They weren't just always doing Greek theater. It was competitive. So, I would have been involved. Competition is where it's at. Prizes are awarded usually for actors and playwrights. And then the choral, which was the singing group, okay? There's usually a group of anywhere from 3 to 50 men. They sang and they danced and they swayed and they kind of did the stuff in the background. Stories were usually based on myth or history and stories that audiences actually knew. So it wasn't like they just wrote something. It was usually stories that had been handed down, and the audience was very familiar with what was going on in that story. All right, it was always performed in outdoor theaters. The audiences would stand or sit depending on where it was. If it was actual theater like this, then you see some form of chairs or seats here, so you'd have them sitting. It actually all started in city centers, open areas, or even hillsides. Okay, so it didn't automatically go to something like this. It would start like in the city town square. More elaborate theater structures, like the one you see here, came between late 6th century BC and 4th and 3rd century BC. All right, so what is Greek tragedy? Greek tragedy is one of those things that they would have been performing in Greek theater. It's a popular and influential form of drama performed in theaters across ancient Greece from the late 6th century BCE. A play in which the protagonist, usually a person of importance and outstanding personal qualities, falls to disaster through the combination of a personal failing and circumstances with which he or she can't deal. So we learned when we read Things Fall Apart that the protagonist is not always who we would consider the good guy. Remember, because Okonkwo in our culture, in our terms, is not a good guy. But for Things Fall Apart, he was the protagonist because he was the main character, and he represented all true great aspects of that culture. So that's kind of what you're looking at here with protagonist. May not be a good guy in our terms, but he's the main character and he's the one that kind of falls short. All right, Greek tragedy involves intense emotion, a horrible truth that leads to catharsis, the cleansing or getting rid of bad emotions, and then the tragic flaw is called hamartia, the error in judgment or the critical mistake. Okay, so Greek tragedy, there's a problem. All right, so some of the most well-known is like the Odyssey, the Iliad, Oedipus Rex that we're going to look at, and then Antigone that we're going to pick up probably next week, okay? All right, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown of Oedipus Rex. Some of you on the Zoom call yesterday, you were a little familiar with it. You know, we've talked in class about some stories that have family issues. You guys have, we've talked in discussions about family issues. Maybe mom and dad don't like who you're dating, or they don't like your music. Or maybe you disagree with something mom and dad said. Oedipus Rex, that's a whole different level of family issues. Okay, so quick summary. Oedipus, king of Thebes, is trying to determine what has caused the plague on the city, causing famine and sickness. Okay, so there's a problem. He's king. He's got to figure out what caused it. Okay, so Creon, the brother-in-law to the king, is sent to the oracle to determine how to end the plague. Now, we know from reading Things Fall Apart that oracles, that's who you go to for your wisdom, right? Okay, so Creon returns from the oracle with this message. The plague will end when the murderer of Laius, the former king, is killed or banished. So according to the oracle, the reason the plague is on the city is because somebody in the city killed King Laius and the plague came. So you've got to find out who that murderer is, and you've got to kill him or banish him from the city, and then the plague will go away. So Oedipus, being the great king that he's trying to be, swears to take action to find the murderer and end the plague for his people. He summons the blind prophet, and he accuses Oedipus of killing King Laius. So King Oedipus goes and says, "Prophet, come and tell me who has done this so I can get rid of him." The prophet comes and says, "Well, you did." Oedipus angrily rejects this and orders the prophet to leave. Before the prophet leaves, he hints at an incestuous marriage and a future of blindness for King Oedipus. So let's think about this for a minute. The king is trying to figure out what has happened to his people so that his people can get rid of the famine and they can all be well and the plague can hit the road. And the prophet says, "Well, it's all your fault." So now the king is in turmoil because he has no idea what is going on. But before the prophet leaves, he says, "Oh, by the way, there's a deal with an incestuous marriage in your life and you're going to go blind." Hate it for you. So Oedipus then seeks advice from his queen, Jocasta, his wife. And she explains that the prophet should be ignored. Prophets can't really be trusted because one time my prophet told me that Laius, her then husband, would die at the hands of our son. Well, that didn't happen because, hello, the king was killed at a crossroads by a bunch of thieves. Mystery music. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, Oedipus finds out that his parents, Polybus and Merope, are not actually his parents. He was given to them by a shepherd. Oedipus hunts the shepherd to get the true story. Y'all, those are not his parents. Who are his parents? Jocasta and King Laius. He totally killed somebody on his way into Thebes when he was trying to determine who he was at a crossroads. Yeah, it was actually the king. And then he comes to the city and he actually falls in love with his mom. They get married, have kids. So way back when the prophet says there's an incestuous marriage, there is. He married his mom. He totally had a kid with her. He didn't know it was his mom, let's be honest. Okay, so talk about some family drama. That's a super quick rendition of what is going on in the life of Oedipus Rex. But I'm pretty sure if you read more into it, it's going to be all the family drama you could possibly imagine to have. All right, so in your springboard book, on page 303, there is a monologue that Oedipus gives. I want you to read it, please. And then I want you to answer question number 7 on page 304. What does the decree that Oedipus gives the city of Thebes reveal about him as a ruler? Is he strict or lenient? And what words from that monologue support your conclusion? I love you guys. I miss you terribly. Wish we could be together. See you later. Love you, mean it.